on the podium.
On the podium.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to speak to either one of these propositions, there's a sign-up sheet on the podium. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your time this afternoon. A bit delayed, but I call the House Higher Education Committee to order. We have two items for hearing today. House Bill 16, Representative Scott, and House Bill 995. There's a substitute in your packet by Representative Bonner. I'm going to go in that order. Anyone have anything before we need to get going? If not, Representative Scott, if you're ready, you can choose the table or the podium, whichever one you prefer. While she's settling in there, members that were here with us last year, you may recall that we moved this on to rules. It didn't make it due to the time commitments late, so this is an item we have seen before. Representative Scott.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. House Bill 16. This legislation will remove barriers and help homeless and foster care students achieve a better future through their higher education. The bill would also provide in-state tuition at units of the university system in Georgia and branches of the technical colleges for youth who are from homeless or foster care situation. It would exclude foster care system from consideration as income for purposes of calculating financial aid. The Higher Education Access and Success for Homeless and Foster Youth Act will provide in-state tuition for youth from homeless situations and for youth from foster care situations. In addition, it excludes foster care system from being used in calculating income for foster youth. Georgia has 7,500 plus students in foster care and 35,000 certified homeless students attend the Georgia public schools. The number of certified homeless students has almost doubled since 2008, 18,000 plus. The rate at which foster and homeless youth enter and complete post-secondary education remain extremely low, and Georgia does not track homeless students entering college or technical schools. Without the financial and moral support of families, and often without a stable place to live, these youth face significant barriers to enrolling, attending, and navigating college. These youth are often living at the margins and working extremely hard to maintain their day-to-day needs. Foster youth and homeless youth often have trouble proving residency for in-state tuition because of paperwork issues. Others lose residences in their home state because of homelessness or foster care forces them to move. This legislation will remove these barriers and help these vulnerable young people achieve a better future through a college education, and request a framework of access and support for these students from the University System of Georgia and technical schools, along with a defined and measurable way to connect these students. I'm graduating from K through 12 into higher education and measuring their progress in post-secondary success. That's it. So, that's.
Thank you, Representative Scott. Do you have, committee have any questions on this? Just tell you the posture of the chair wants to be in this afternoon. We have seen this before. We moved it to rules when we did last year. And Representative Scott, you may be familiar. Someone came to me last year.
Yeah, Caitlin.
And there was a tweak, a change that they wanted to see in the legislation after we had gotten. We talked about doing it in the Senate. I don't know if they are here today, but I want the committee to, if you have questions, if you have concerns about the legislation, I want it to be sounded out today. We meet again Wednesday, so it would be my goal to have this in the forum we are ready to move on it on Wednesday, and give the representative the opportunity to get to rules as early as Thursday should the committee vote in favor of it. So I want to, if Caitlin, if that is who
Yes.
we're talking about, has
Yes.
something that she wishes to do, that I'll get with you or her, or at your request tomorrow, and make a tweak that we can bring back to the committee. But with that said, are there any questions the committee has of Representative Scott? I think she brings a great attention to a matter that could use some work here in Georgia. Any questions? Representative, you must have done a good job. This is usually an inquisitive group of folks, and I see no questions at this time. So our intent is to bring this back for action of the committee on Wednesday at our next meeting. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, and that again for the committee, that's LC 392187S. That was the substitute that the committee had last year. Moving on to the agenda this afternoon, House Bill 995. Representative Bonner, if you want to come forward. We have a number of people signed up. I don't have it. Somebody, and I want this to be, I want to spread this information, in a friendly sort of manner. Somebody brought a handout to our office, and it had an organization on it, and asked us to put that in the packet. We have that information, do we not? Now, we do not have, that is not it. We have the other information. Can you bring that up here, Sarah? I'm gonna let you have it, and here. Did anybody know on this? Okay, all right. I'm gonna give that back to you, and when you come up, I'm gonna let hand it out. I just, as a rule, and I think I stated this at the beginning of last year, I want an individual to own a document before it's handed out to the committee. I don't see a problem with this. I don't think it says anything inflammatory or otherwise untrue. I'll let you defend the information. But, if you want something, even on the House floor, if we want something distributed, we have to put a card with a number so it can be called upon. So I'm not owning your information positively or negatively. I'm going to give it back to you. But anybody that wishes to have anything, spread before the committee there needs to be a person that owns it so we could get back with it if we had question with it. So with that, I'm going to keep a copy, hand it back over that way, and you can come and get it and hand it to the committee as you speak. With that, Representative Bonner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. What I'd like to do, Mr. Chairman, is I'll kind of introduce the bill. I'll walk through the major components and then open it up for any questions. So what I bring before you today to the committee is House Bill 995. It is referred to as the Forum Act, the Forming Open and Robust University Minds Act. The purpose of the bill is to ensure that our constitutional rights of our students at our public universities are protected, and their lawful speech and expression is not infringed. This does so in three main areas. Number one, it prohibits speech codes protecting what students say. Second, it prohibits speech zones protecting where students can speak. And then thirdly, it protects freedom of association rights, protecting with whom students can express themselves and how they do so. First of all, with prohibiting speech codes, starting on lines 35 running through 49, we define what is considered a materially and substantial disruption and also deal with what is often termed a heckler's veto. The definition of material and substantial disruption is crucial because it ensures that lawful expression by students isn't wrongfully infringed upon, but also protects our school's ability to maintain order and safety on campus. This definition is pulled from the Supreme Court case Davis versus Monroe Board of Education, which is the standard for determining what is harassment in an educational setting. Moving on to lines 64 through 71, that's where we find the portion that is prohibiting free speech zones. And on those lines, the bill prohibits free speech zones, making the unrestricted outdoor areas of campus public forums. The examples of public forums include public streets, sidewalks, and parks, according to the Supreme Court in the United States versus Grace decision. The unrestricted and outdoor areas of campus are very similar, if not identical, to these examples. Thus, college students should have the same rights on their campus town square, quote unquote, as they would have in public as a member of society at large. It is, I will point out that 16 states have prohibited speech zones and have not seen schools have issues with maintaining order. Moving on to the protection of free association rights, that's found in lines 102 through 110. This bill prevents schools from discriminating against student groups based on their actual or anticipated express activity, nor any requirements as a group may have of their leaders and members. The point here is that schools shouldn't treat groups differently based on a belief or a viewpoint. And then the last portion is the cause of action, and that would essentially allow some recourse and actually gives teeth to the bill. So this would allow students to pursue remedies in the event that their rights were infringed upon. Now with that, Mr. Chairman, I know that was a broad brush, but I'd certainly be willing to take any questions. And up here at the table I've got with me Travis Barham. He's an attorney with Alliance Defending Freedom, and he will be assisting me in answering any of the specifics that we have on the bill.
Mr. Barham, do you have anything you'd like to add to Representative Bonner's presentation?
Thank you, Chairman Martin and other members of the Higher Education Committee. I serve as a senior counsel with Alliance Defending Freedom and specifically with our ADF Center for Academic Freedom, which focuses on defending free speech and free association rights on campuses across the country. I also have the privilege of being a Georgia resident, so this bill strikes near to a lot of things near and dear to me. One thing I will add to what Representative Bonner mentioned is that the bill before you is already the result of substantial compromise. We have already heard concerns from many, including the University System of Georgia, and we've already taken steps to remedy many of those concerns. For example, the University System of Georgia wanted to remove the findings, and we have removed those. They wanted to clarify the definition of student organizations, and we have clarified to make sure that that doesn't include a group that's in the process of becoming recognized. They were concerned about allowing students to use the outdoor areas of campus as a designated public forum. We've clarified that that only applies to students, the people who pay the tuition, who live on that campus, for whom the campus is their town square. It does not include non-students. We've already included language in the bill to allow universities to stop a heckler's veto or a shout down from protesters. And we've already added language specifically allowing the university to apply different standards to their employees than they apply to their students. So we've already taken substantial steps to remedy many of the concerns that have been expressed. One concern that's often expressed about the speech zone provision is, would this allow protests to take place on the football field? Short answer, no. The football field is not an unrestricted outdoor area. There is a lock on the gate. So there's already protections here that allow the university to maintain peace and good order. And I'll mention one thing that's, I think, most important with all of this. In the past 15 years or so, Alliance Defending Freedom has sued at least 7 public universities in this state over free speech and free association violations. As a result, universities in the state have spent over $1.2 million for their unconstitutional actions. And so it's time for the representatives of students in this state, the people who are here to hold the government accountable, to make sure that freedoms are respected, to hold these universities accountable. And that's why it's important to have, for example, the cause of action in here. And at least 10 states have passed similar legislation giving students a recourse to hold government officials accountable when they violate their freedoms. And in each of those 10 states, we haven't had to go back and file another lawsuit. So when we say that Forum Act solves the campus free speech issue, we mean it. The passing of the Forum Act ensures that universities can be held accountable, that students remain free to speak, free to associate on campus as they should. And so that's why I think that it's critically important that the House pass this bill, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that members of the committee may pose.
Thank you for your presentation. I just, on behalf of the committee, I appreciate the fact that you've had some conversations with the folks, in the Senate and made some compromises, and those, you may have found a similar request by the House members. I just want you to come at this in the same positive manner that I'm going to conduct this meeting and that I'm going to ask our members to, is that, those are the senators and we are the House members, and we too may have some things that we raise with you. They're all toward, I've just been fortunate enough to sit with these folks for almost 2 years now, or almost 2 sessions, and I firmly believe we'll have a constructive dialogue toward doing that. So I would just simply ask, Representative Bonner and I have discussed, and I've asked, first time I've met you today, to look at that. This is not mark up to mark down. This is not anything like that. But if there's a question from the House members, the fact that you may have compromised on something with the Senate does not lessen my members. And again, that's a affectionate my members, not an ownership my members, does our members of the House that they have questions as well. So just come into it with eyes wide open and a good and positive dialogue, and we'll be good to go. We've got a number of questions. I'm just going to start from left to right around here. I'm not sure when they came up. Number 2, I think that's Dr. Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have a couple of questions. Should I just rattle them off?
In the interest of time, why don't you rattle one off, pick who you're going to do that to, and then get back with me, all right? Because if you have more than a few, then we go around, and I'm not going to run this like a congressional hearing because they make me crazy, but we'll come back to you. We don't want you to filibuster. You've never done that before, so rattle away.
I shall not filibuster.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so my first question is related to the student organizations. So in lines 102 through about 110-ish, 109, I just want to be clear. When you say freedom of association, are we asking that student organizations be allowed to exclude certain members of the university community from their student organization? I just want to make sure I'm reading it correctly.
Are you directing that to Representative Bonner? I'm going to ask the committee to direct all the questions to Representative Bonner, and then allow him to defer to, I don't know if he's we're going to call him your co-presenter, not your counsel, because I don't think he represents you. I'm not going to build you an attorney-client relationship that doesn't exist. Representative Bonner?
So the intent is to allow freedom of association, right? So it is not meant to exclude anyone from being a part of an organization.
But I guess my follow-up to that, not its intention, I'm asking, would it allow for a student organization to exclude members of the university community based on not wanting to be associated with certain people. So, for example, if a Christian organization wanted to exclude non-Christians or maybe someone who identified as trans or homosexual, would they be able to say, we do not want to associate, and it's our constitutional right to not associate with you?
I guess I'm not understanding your question. There's no intention to exclude. It's simply a way to allow freedom of association. So we're not forcing anyone who doesn't want to be a part of an organization to be a part. We're simply allowing anyone who wants to be a part of an organization to be a part.
Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Clark, I have a question later on for perhaps some people with the university system that may get to the crux of your question further if we do that, and then I'll come back for you for round two if I'll make a mark over here. Chairman Dreyer, is that you? Yeah. Number 4? Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've got just two kind of categories of questions, but just some very specific questions with it. You said you've prevailed in 7, and I guess your co-presenter who is working with you on this has said there's been 7 court cases around the country where there's been an infringement on campus speech. Is that right?
7 here in the state of Georgia.
7 here in the state of Georgia.
Or 7 institutions have been sued, 8 lawsuits.
How many did you prevail on?
All 7.
Okay. And so the courts adequately
Or
address.
all 8 lawsuits against all 7 institutions.
So the courts adequately address those?
There are federal remedies, to be sure. The question with Forum Act is, should the state step in when the university system has indicated over and over again that it is unwilling to make the changes systemically that are needed? Should the people's representatives, should the state legislature step in and hold higher education officials in the state accountable and apply bright line tests to make sure that students do not have to take the extraordinary step of suing their school in federal court and incurring all the time and the energy and expense associated with that, just to make sure that those students can speak freely on their campus.
Okay. There's a recent one where a woman was not permitted to speak at Georgia Southern University and has just filed suit because she would not sign a forum that the campus presented that said she would not boycott the state of Israel. I believe she's a pro-Palestinian advocate.
If you don't mind, given the fact that that is an ongoing, while he's not a party to it, I don't want to make that part of this unless you just want to ask if something that, because to be clear, she was a hired speaker coming in. She wasn't a volunteer speaker. So she was a contract person that was being asked to sign on or opine on the validity of her suit, but that is not what we're trying to, no part of this is trying to cover a particular contract with a paid speaker.
Wouldn't a student organization have invited her in, though?
In that case, it was the contract, I believe. Well, that's why I want to get by, because I don't have all the notes, but my understanding was the contract was with the school. Was with a school. Can we?
You can. I've got
park
actually
that, and then we'll get some more
it.
information, and I'll let you extend that further.
That's fine. I guess I just had. You're right. And really, it's on lines 102 through 110, where I do have more concerns, Mr. Chair. And I guess there's 2 specific questions. One is, if a religious group had a position against interracial dating, could they exclude students who would not commit to not taking part in interracial dating and then not lose state funding?
Again, the second question, I don't want to cut him off. I think I have something that kind of goes to Dr. Clark's question that to suggest to that, because and I should let him testify, but I want us to stay on the point here. The way I read this is they're not trying to legalize any discrimination that would be otherwise prohibited law. They want to have all of the organizations treated the same way. Is that true? Okay, now with that said, I'll let you do two, and Dr. Clark only got to do one, so go ahead, Chairman Dreyer, and finish the question.
Well, it is a specific question, though, because I do think set lines 102 through 110, and then you have the corresponding section with technical schools. If a student organization, my reading, Mr. Chair, were to take a position that their interpretation of a religious text did not allow interracial dating, and a student coming in to that organization was in an interracial relationship, they could be excluded from that group, and that group would not risk losing funding, which is presently the case. Right now, that group would lose funding if they discriminated against someone on the basis of race, gender, sexual orientation. This would take that protection out of the code and allow a group that would exclude people for interracial dating, being in the LGBTQ community and T community, from participating in that group without losing funding. That's what I see as kind of a big crux of this, Mr. Chair.
And that's, excuse me, Chairman, that's a fair question. And I think there's some question as to the interpretation of that language, and I, along with you, would like to drill down to that further if we can do that. So I don't dismiss your point, nor that of Dr. Clark's, but can we note that point and note that that's language that we would look into?
That's fine. I will certainly defer, Mr. Chair, but to the extent that language stays in, I would like to get clarification from the sponsors on that point.
Fair enough. Going back, number 15, I'm sorry, I don't, who is 15? Is that Representative Couch? Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and to my friend Josh, konnichiwa. Hope everything is well. I want to resonate that I share the concerns issued by Representative Clark and Representative Dreyer, and I understand that we hopefully get more clarification on that. But do you know if in Georgia student organizations have lost funding for violating university non-discriminatory policies? And if yes, how many?
Representative, I'm aware of at least one university
What?
that's sued over this issue, the University of Georgia.
Okay,
They kicked
you
a
do.
Christian club off campus over these issues. The university ultimately lost that case. The group was restored to its recognized status. And then also Savannah State University kicked a Christian club off campus for the way that they welcomed new members into their club. They claimed that it was hazing to have a foot washing ceremony where the officers of the club humbled themselves and took and washed the feet of the new members following the example of Christ. And the university kicked them off campus, claimed that was hazing. The group sued, Savannah State lost, and the group was restored to its status on campus. So this issue has popped up on Georgia campuses, and that's why the provision is included in the Forum Act.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Representative Bonner, for bringing the bill. I think, in reading both the original version and the substitute, I think there's a lot here that we could agree upon, especially in protecting First Amendment rights of students. But I would, again, point to lines 102 to 110 that some of my colleagues have raised, given the potential concerns of some unintended consequences that could potentially result from those sections. So hopefully we'll have an opportunity to move forward. The first question, on line 103, benefit or privilege. If we're saying this provision protects the freedom of association, could you? I'm no constitutional scholar, but could you explain to me perhaps how the freedom of association of the students could be infringed if a public organization does not provide a group of students certain benefits and privileges?
Going all the way back, Representative, to I believe it's 1972, the Supreme Court. Excuse me. Going back all the way to, I believe, 1972, the Supreme Court ruled in Healy versus James that when a public university denies recognition to a student organization because of its beliefs, it is violating the club's constitutional rights. And by denying the recognition, the court said what that does is it deprives the student organization of the ability to advertise on campus, the ability to hold events on campus, the ability to use campus facilities. The denial of all of those rights, denial of all those privileges or benefits, however you want to phrase it, when taken away because of the group's beliefs or expression, is a violation of the group's constitutional rights, and that's why the language is here in the Forum Act.
Just to clarify, in that case, was it a violation of their constitutional right to associate?
I believe it was association and expression, both were mixed.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. Second question, from lines 104 to 107, where we're talking about prospective student organizations. If there was a desire, where especially we're saying anticipated expressive activity, if there was a situation where students wanted to form a neo-Nazi group or a white supremacist group, or at least that was the anticipated desire for expressive activity, would this code section prevent the organization from denying that organization from forming or providing them any benefits or privileges?
I would have to get back to you on the specifics of that specific hypothetical. It's difficult to assess hypotheticals on the spot. The point of this provision is to enshrine the already existing freedom of expressive association that is protected by the First Amendment. And the Constitution, the Supreme Court has already said that the ability of like-minded individuals to associate for the purpose of expressing commonly held views may not be curtailed. This extends to political and ideological beliefs. It extends to religious beliefs, and that's why this provision's in the Forum Act. As to the specifics of any particular student organization you raise, anybody can create a parade of horribles. But the freedom to gather together to express a common viewpoint is one that's already protected in the Constitution. It simply needs to be respected by state institutions as well.
Thank you. And just to clarify, I think one of the concerns we have with this provision is the ability to protect organizations that may otherwise discriminate against other students, especially if the desire is to treat all these student organizations the same.
I understand the concern. At the same time, if such a group with such loathsome beliefs were to be formed, it would instantaneously spark a backlash, and you would find a campus group formed to express the exact opposite viewpoint. And so whatever small number of students might be willing to express such loathsome views would instantly be drowned out by contrary viewpoints. And that's the way freedom of expression is supposed to work. So if you see speech that you don't like, if you see groups that you don't like, form a different group, express a different viewpoint, and nothing stops that from happening on campus.
Last question, if I may, Mr. Chairman. So again, I appreciate the intention of this bill, especially to protect our First Amendment rights. Are there any thoughts or implications that this bill may have with our campus carry laws? Especially now that guns may be carried on college campus, is there any safety concerns perhaps within these institutions if, again, any organizations are permitted to organize and other organizations in response to those organizations to organize?
This bill addresses only expression, and that's it. It doesn't have anything to do with campus carry or any other actions along those lines, as far as I know.
Thank you.
Representative, you did well. You slipped right in, but
Thank you, Chairman.
Dr. Clark and Chairman Dreyer there, you got multiple questions. I'm going to leave that to y'all in the caucus. Y'all can handle your fellow member there. Representative Bentley. She sits next to me. She can tell you she gets one more than Representative Clark.
Mine will be very simple. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative, for presenting this bill. But, last week we had Fort Valley State University Day at the state capitol. And although I'm very concerned about all universities in the state, as well as the technical college system of Georgia, but because Fort Valley State is in my district, can you tell me exactly how this bill is going to impact Fort Valley State University students, faculty, and staff?
Well, the intent of the bill is to, again, protect those constitutional rights that we already have. So I would say to not only Fort Valley State, but any of those schools within the university system, I think this will actually make a better educational environment for our students. I mean, our universities are the place where we expect debate to take place. We expect folks to be a part of groups that are like-minded with each other, to explore academia, to have conversation, have debate. So I would say that this would actually make Fort Valley State better.
Okay, thank you for that. Look,
Bless your heart. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think is the proper way to say that. Thank you so much, sir. And I will keep mine. I think last time I got off on a tangent. I will keep mine very succinct this time. Regarding lines 102 to 110, which appears to be pretty doggone popular, could I just? I don't see anything in here that is not already part of our First Amendment rights in the U.S. Constitution. Is it that because we have had to go to court 8 times, you have had to go to court 8 times to say in the Constitution of the United States we do have freedom of expression, freedom of association, and you cannot usurp those rights. You cannot be the arbiter or thought police of the things that maybe I don't like, that are dissatisfying to me. Is there anything in here? Is this just spelling out? Am I reading it correctly? This is spelling out that no, the First Amendment actually does still hold, and you cannot deny on campus. You do not forget or forego your First Amendment rights that are enshrined in our U.S. Constitution. Am I correct in reading that, or am I reading it wrong?
You're correct.
Well, okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative. And a reminder, and I appreciate the breadth and the feelings on this. Let's just try to have this questions. When the appropriate time is, we get a bill before us, we'll debate the bill. But questions. Representative Gardner.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And for me, higher education is the place where you learn to hear the pros and cons of issues. So I applaud you for making sure that students hear both sides of every issue. My questions are more basic, having to do with an institution that is funded by public dollars, and what are the limitations if where public dollars are used? These organizations, is there a definition somewhere that I could find that defines a religious institution, a definition of a political institution, or an ideological student organization? I mean, for me, it's confusing. I don't know exactly what these organizations are, nor do I know how they're funded. So could you, these are kind of basic questions for me. And as I think about how public dollars are used based on what we have in our institutions, the separation of certainly religious, of church and state, for example. But I don't know exactly, and maybe it's been too long since I've been in college, but who are these groups? How are they funded? And are they receiving public money? The institution is certainly receiving public money.
Well, number one, I would say that the intent of the bill is to put everyone on a level playing field. So
which is what he just said.
That's correct.
First Amendment rights.
So a religious organization, examples might be the Wesley Foundation, Baptist Student Union, the Catholic Association, Muslim group, you name it. Those are the organizations. Political can run the gamut from, college Republicans to the college socialists, whatever you want to have. And so the intent of the bill is simply to reiterate and state equivocally that everyone's on the same playing field, a level playing field. So in the event that the school provided resources, for instance, in terms of office space or office supplies, whatever it may be, that those were available and offered every student organization.
So you're suggesting that these groups are actually supported by public funds from the university?
They are supported, well, there are also a lot of student fees that I know that I pay. But it is essentially whatever the university provides, it's provided equally. So in as much as a public university is paid for by taxpayers.
But are they not student fees? I mean, where does this money come from for these groups that you?
Representative Gardner, if you will allow, when you finish your line of questioning, I'm going to ask just someone from the university system to come up real briefly and give us an example of what funding might be and available in what we're talking about on line 103, benefit or privilege, if that would help you get what you're after.
Well, given the limitation on funding for public education, I think we need to hear those answers.
Yes, ma'am. So if we'll do, I'm going to let you. Are you fit? If we go to there, does that complete your question?
I'm willing to wait.
Okay, I'm going to do that, and we do have speakers that come, but just for the purpose of this, Ms. Bowen, are you here? You happen to have drawn the short straw as being somebody signed up from the university system, so I'm going to ask you to come forward, and if you choose to take the question I'm going to pose. I know you probably, after I ask the question, if you would identify yourself for the committee, but my question, along with Representative Gardner's, I think, inquiry, was when we're talking about in lines 103 of the bill, student organization, any benefit or privilege, can you talk to that in general terms and maybe bring back something later in writing that we could spread over the committee? And it may be different by institution, but I think specifically what the representative is looking for, are we talking money? Are we talking access to facilities, ability to reserve a facility? Can you give us a very brief synopsis of that, and then we'll go on to questions because we do have a number of speakers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Who do you represent? I missed the first.
I'm with the University System of Georgia, with the Board of Regents. Absolutely, and Mr. Chairman, if I may, in my remarks later, I would like to address a lot of the concerns around 102 to 110, but I won't do that right now.
Yes, ma'am. I know you signed up to speak, and I'm not going to. This is not going to take away from your time. But if you could just give us a brief, and if you don't have all that information now, just we can get it before we come back. But when we're referring to benefit or privilege, can you give us a paragraph or summary of what those might be, and if they involve hard currency value?
And I would like to speak in general terms, and we're happy to get you specifics before you all come back the next week. But when we are talking about benefits that are available to our student organizations, how the law sees these, actually whether they're coming from student activity fees or whether they're coming from state funds, the law sees these as public funds. So when we are distributing these funds to our student organizations, we do have to be consistent both with the First Amendment, which we're committed to doing, and we have to be consistent with our federal non-discrimination policy. So I know that's a very big picture. I'll be happy to get you specifics, though, before you all reconvene.
So just to be clear, this would be more than just access to facilities and the ability to reserve facilities. This could, in some cases, be actual hard funding appropriations based on the organization, or perhaps based on the number of individuals that were in the organization and so forth.
I'd like to come back to whether it is the state funds or whether it is actually the student activity fees bucket, just to confirm I'm being consistent across our campuses. But there absolutely is the provision at our campuses where student organizations are entitled to student fees. So they use these to bring in speakers, they use these to host events. We do have, as I'll speak to later, we have policies and parameters in place to ensure that those are consistent with the First Amendment, but those do implicate certain requirements that we also have to abide by in terms of state and federal law.
Thank you. And we'll get back to you when, yes, ma'am.
Student activity fees are required? Or
I'm sorry?
Are they required or are they optional?
For payment of student activity fees, I can get really in the weeds. There are certain mandatory student activity fees we have that all students must pay.
Every student must pay.
Certain mandatory fees, yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. Chairman, just one point of clarification.
When we're talking about student activity fees, the Supreme Court has repeatedly ruled that those are not public money. those are private, that constitutes private funds because it's been collected from all the students mandatorily by the university, and is then the Supreme Court then requires that those funds be distributed in a viewpoint neutral fashion to all student groups that apply. So that money does not constitute public funds. So when we're talking about benefits or privileges, yes, it could include student activity fee funding. Supreme Court's already said, because that's been mandatorily collected from all students, that's not government money, that's private student money that is then being redistributed for student expression.
Graduate if you don't pay your student fee.
Exactly.
It's like Aflac, just like money. Then it's just a commercial. Dr. Price. Dr. Clark. What's that?
So I actually want to bring up another point. As a lecturer on a campus, I understand the intent of the bill is to not limit where freedom of speech can take place. However, if I am giving an exam in a building that has a common area in the front, does this bill limit the ability of the university to say that during final exam time or this doesn't place an undue burden on people in my position where I'm trying to have a nice, quiet place for my students to have take their exam and there's a demonstration happening outside the window?
That is a good question. Thank you for asking that. And no, the intent of the bill is you would not have that situation where you were trying to give an exam or anything like that and have to put up with that kind of disruption.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions to the author of the bill at this time? We have a number of speakers. Any further questions? Do you want to go back? Yes, sir. Press your Chairman Dreyer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We talked about the First Amendment, but the University of Georgia online has a policy of non-discrimination. It includes gender, race, sexual orientation. The most applicable Supreme Court case on this, United States Supreme Court case, is Christian Legal Society versus Martinez in 2010. And it said if a university has a non-discrimination policy, and it applies that equally across the board, then that policy can stand. But the way I read this section, if a student organization has a policy that's determined to be discriminatory on the basis of race, sexual orientation, or other feature, the University of Georgia could not apply that non-discrimination policy across the board to the use of those public funds. And am I missing something on that, or is that a fair statement so we can be on the same page?
With respect, Representative, the description of the CLS versus Martinez case is not entirely accurate. CLS versus Martinez only dealt with a very specific kind of non-discrimination policy, an all-comers policy, one that says that any student has to be able to join any student club regardless of anything. No school in the state of Georgia has such a policy. All of the schools in the state of Georgia have a policy that says you can't discriminate based on certain listed protected classifications. The Supreme Court wasn't dealing with that kind of policy. It specifically said it wasn't dealing with that kind of policy. And all that the CLS versus Martinez says is that if you want to have an all-comers policy, you can. You don't have to. Supreme Court didn't even say that it was advisable. And the reason it's not advisable is because for example, if the University System of Georgia adopted an all-comers policy, you would not have any more fraternities or sororities because those discriminate based on sex. And so the university system doesn't have that kind of policy. CLS versus Martinez only deals with that kind of policy that the university system doesn't adopt, doesn't have, has never had. And so all of this bill does is it enshrines the already existing constitutional protections for the freedom of association.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask one last question? I don't think I quite got the answer to that. I understand your interpretation of constitutional law, and I disagree with that. I think there is a lot of gray in that. But I'm asking, if this bill goes into law and the University of Georgia has a non-discrimination policy and a student organization is discriminating on the basis of race or sexual orientation, if that will prohibit the university from applying its non-discrimination policy when choosing where public funds go.
Well, the language in this policy doesn't deal with discrimination based on those characteristics. It says it allows a group to insist that its leaders and its voting members ascribe to the group's sincerely held beliefs. It doesn't say anything about discriminating against based on other classifications. It simply says, if you're going to be a member of our club, you actually have to agree with our club.
I agree. I know that's what that says, but if the sincerely held religious belief includes discrimination against sex or race or sexual orientation, would that override the university's non-discrimination policy and allow that group to get funding?
The university could still take action based on actions of the student club, but it can't discriminate against them because of the beliefs that they hold. So if they act in a certain way, that's a different ballgame. This simply says you can't discriminate against the club because of its beliefs, and because it says you need to agree with our beliefs.
And standards of conduct.
Yes.
Standards of conduct such as not having interracial dating. It's a potential one, right?
Potential.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have some speakers, and I'm going to get to those now. We're an hour into the meeting. We'll come back to you all when we've had our speakers. I'm going to ask y'all to move. Only if the speakers want to sit. We're gonna let them choose to stand or sit. So if they wish to stand at the podium, it might be easier for you guys because we're not going to go back and forth. The speakers aren't going to ask you questions. Y'all aren't going to respond to the speakers. So you might just want to take a seat on the first row and relax, and then the speakers can stand or sit, whichever's better. The first speaker we have 11 speakers. We have an hour left. I'd like to leave 10 minutes for us to finish up. That's giving people, give or take 5 minutes or so. Again, we can come back if we want to have more. I know people have come here today. I don't want to cut anybody off. I think some may, have a little more. So with that, Nicole Robinson.
Good afternoon. My name is Nicole Robinson, and I am the policy analyst for the American Civil Liberties Union of Georgia. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today about House Bill 995. I really appreciate it. So currently, the ACLU of Georgia opposes House Bill 995. This bill, as it's currently worded, would roll out the red carpet for student organizations at Georgia's public colleges and universities to discriminate in their membership and in their leadership. And so I do not have the substitute, but I believe it's still lines 102 to 109 or 110, just about, that I'm specifically referencing, that we specifically have issues with. So currently, and some of the stuff I'm saying has kind of been said, so please bear with me. Currently, many of Georgia's public colleges and universities have policies that prevent student organizations from discriminating in their membership and or their leadership. And so those are the university anti-discrimination policies. These policies are designed to protect the civil rights and civil liberties of students, regardless of whether those students are a federally protected class. So currently, those policies, which vary by institution, allow for the institutions to withdraw official recognition of student organizations. They're also allowed to withdraw funding if those organizations are found to discriminate on the basis of sex, religion, national origin, ethnicity, color, age, gender identity or expression, marital status, citizenship, sexual orientation, or disability. And so the oldest public university in America, it's tied, I believe, with two others. The University of Georgia prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity, ethnicity, or national origin, religion, age, genetic information, disability, or veteran status. So these types of policies promote equal protection under the law for all students at Georgia's public colleges and universities, and these policies foster an open, safe, and invigorating environment in which students can learn and grow while attending the state's public colleges and institutions, which are among some of the best in the nation. Students at our public universities remain their right to freedom of expression, and anti-discrimination policies do not violate the First Amendment. And I'll reference again, in 2010, the Supreme Court ruled in Christian Legal Society v. Martinez that university policies that bar discrimination do not violate the First Amendment because the enforcement of the anti-discrimination policy was based on the organization's conduct and not on their views. The decision affirmed a school's right to require student clubs seeking school recognition and funding to adhere to the school's non-discrimination policy, provided the requirement is applied to all student clubs generally. So the lines I referenced before, 102 to 109 or 110-ish, would effectively prevent Georgia's public colleges and universities from enforcing these policies on religious, political, or ideological student organizations specifically. This section of House Bill 995 prevents public institutions of higher education from denying any benefit or privilege to those student organizations based on their actual or anticipated expressive activity or the activity of barring someone from joining your organization because they don't adhere to your sincerely held beliefs is conduct and not speech. And so this section of the bill attempts to put the sheep's clothing of free speech over the wolf of discriminatory conduct. Racial segregation in Georgia was the law in our institutions not long ago, and today Georgia has made tremendous progress in celebrating the diversity of our institutions. Once segregated, my alma mater, Georgia State University, right down the road, attracts students from across Georgia, the United States, and nearly 50 other countries. The largest university in Georgia, students at Georgia State represent diverse political and religious backgrounds. That diversity is our strength and part of the success formula for my fellow graduates and for graduates who will come after me. House Bill 995, we feel, would have a chilling effect on the important protections Georgia's public colleges and universities have to bar discrimination. Discrimination does remain a real concern in our state. For example, a couple years ago at Valdosta State, black students were removed from a rally that was held in support of then candidate Donald Trump. People assumed that their race meant that they were protesters rather than students who actually were there in support of then candidate Donald Trump, just like the white students were. So for these reasons, the ACLU of Georgia asked the committee to remove the lines that I've been referencing from this legislation. Our public universities are marketplaces of ideas. The American ideals of free speech must not be used as a shield for discriminatory conduct. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm going to ask if you care to stand for a question. I want Ms. Robinson to know, and any speaker, you don't feel obligated to do so. But do you wish to take a question?
I can take a couple. I don't want to take too many. I don't want to take up too much time.
Well, yeah, I'm going to work with you on that. But Representative Bentley has a question for you, Ms. Robinson.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here presenting. Same question to you as I asked to the author of this bill. My concern about Fort Valley State University. How is this bill, in your opinion, going to affect students at Fort Valley State University?
So in reference to the free speech zones, obviously it would prevent Fort Valley State University from implementing free speech zones. But in reference to the lines that I was mentioning just a minute ago, it could potentially allow for Fort Valley State University students who identify as members of particularly maybe like the LGBTQ community to be discriminated against as it relates to student organizations.
Sororities and fraternities?
I beg your pardon?
So, can you address sororities and fraternities? How would this affect them?
So that's not in the bill.
Okay.
Sororities and
Just
fraternities.
want to make sure.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I would say they fall under Title IX.
Uh-huh.
Kind of specific, goes into that a bit more.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No more questions. Thank you very much. Is it Isabel Otero? Am I doing that correctly? Ms. Otero, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Isabel Otero. I am the Policy Associate for the Southern Poverty Law Center and the SPLC Action Fund. For over 3 decades, my colleagues at the Southern Poverty Law Center's Intelligence Project have been tracking, reporting, and sharing intelligence with law enforcement officials on extremist groups like the KKK, Nazis, and other extremists. As we sit here today discussing HB 995, we are currently tracking approximately 1,600 extremist groups across the country. In our state of Georgia, there are about 40 active hate groups that we are currently tracking as well. And unfortunately, we see an increase in activity by white nationalists, especially at institutions of higher learning. And SPLC deeply respects and works to protect our First Amendment right to free speech, and we also believe in forcefully denouncing racists and bigots. As you know, we do not regulate hate speech in the United States. We all have a right to free speech. However, no one has the right to say anything at any time, at any college or university, right? Like public colleges and universities should not be forced to host speakers who encourage, incite violence, support prejudice, bigotry, and whose speech creates unsafe environments for their students. Colleges and universities have become a prime target of the newly energized white supremacist movement because it sees them as bastions of liberalism and multiculturalism. Their objective is to cause chaos and violence, to encourage divisiveness, and to radicalize our youth by spreading their views, conspiracy theories, and lies on college campuses. And this bill, unfortunately, would pave the way for these hate groups of all stripes, white nationalists, neo-Nazis, and any and all racist provocateurs to blanket college campuses with flyers designed to radicalize and recruit young people. Flyering activities by hate groups on college campuses are an integral part of the racist alt-right movement's tactics. And they allow flyers have the distinct ability to draw attention to the group and allow their members to remain in the shadows. Even the ultra-violent hate group Atomwaffen Division, responsible for at least 5 murders and with members under indictment for plotting violence, are known to try to distribute flyers on college campuses. Back in 2017, 2 months after the violent Charlottesville rallies with white supremacists in the streets of that city, there was a counter-protester, Ms. Heather Hayes, who was killed. 2 months after that, Mr. Richard Spencer, one of the leaders of the white nationalist movement, decided that he would be going on a college speaking tour. Mr. Spencer cost the University of Florida, in one of his appearances, about $600,000 for protecting their students. Governor Rick Scott, at the moment, Republican Governor Rick Scott, declared a state of emergency prior to his arrival. 3 of Mr. Spencer's supporters were arrested and charged with attempted murder after firing a gun into the crowd of protesters. In Texas A&M, Mr. Spencer, same person, cost that university $300,000, and 2 people were arrested. Milo Yiannopoulos, another racist provocateur, he cost the quite a lot of money to University of Washington. Once again, a counter-protester was shot by an alt-right member. At the University of Michigan, Mr. Spencer spoke, and 25 people were arrested, including a member of one of the hate groups that we track, the National Policy Institute. At Auburn University, one of our neighboring states, 3 were arrested, including a member of another hate group that we track, the League of the South. This bill is designed to tie the hands of those whose job it is to protect their students and campuses, and require them instead to sort of protect KKK and other extremists who want to provoke violence and recruit and radicalize young people. While universities are places that must absolutely protect free speech, they are also state actors tasked with keeping their students, faculty, and advisors safe from violence. It's important to remember that those students who decide to protest racists and bigots who come to campus also have the right to free speech under our Constitution. SPLC believes that neither students nor administrators can stop someone from speaking merely because they dislike the speaker's ideas. Some universities have then found ways to ensure that the cost is not to the taxpayer or to the university when these folks come to town. However, this bill encourages outside agitators to continue to come onto college campuses, provoke students, and encourage chaos, and then sue the school at the taxpayer's expense if school officials take any action to protect their students. While we have and must protect our First Amendment right to free speech, we must also remember the obligation to uphold and protect our 14th Amendment right to equal protection under the law. Students from marginalized groups are often the targets of hate groups in these speeches, And we urge you all to find a balance between punishing institutions seeking to protect their students from violence and harm and this free speech rights of wealthy racists with an agenda to spark violence on our campuses. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Otero. We're going to move on now to Daylene Lowry. How did I do?
Good. Better than most people.
3 for 3. I don't know if I'll be that lucky before. Yes, ma'am.
You're doing pretty good. Good afternoon. My name is Daylin Lowry. I am a previous student at Georgia Gwinnett College. I'd first like to thank you for taking the time to hear testimony on this bill and consider it. From 2014 to 2018, I attended Georgia Gwinnett College as a double major. I ventured into my college experience with the long-held idea that places of higher education were meant to serve as a marketplace for the exchange of ideas, where your thoughts and notions of the world would be challenged and where you learn to defend what you believe, while simultaneously learning to respect, understand, and appreciate the opinions of others. I could not have been more wrong. Ironically, I did not begin to experience issues until one of my professors discovered that I was religious and politically engaged in our community. Following the disclosure of this information, I was met with unfounded claims of plagiarism and a slew of public demeaning comments and confrontations with my professor and fellow classmates. Others were also subjected to the same mistreatment by this professor who, might I add, was never reprimanded. This treatment by professors and students alike continued throughout my years at this college. It no longer mattered that we were human beings, just as deserving of respect. Other professors and students were allowed to express their views in any way they saw fit, but the same opportunity was not extended to those who did not toe the ideological line. 2 years ago, the legislature worked on a bill trying to fix some of these same speech policies, SB 339, which was proposed shortly after a student on my campus was removed from a free speech zone because the university felt that the student body at large would find his speech offensive. After the proposal of SB 339, one of my classes was visited by the college's legislative liaison. Rather than facilitating a wider discussion about issues surrounding free expression on campus, she indicated that the student body would not have to worry and that nothing would be changing, because the school's administrators plan to adjust their expression policies just long enough to signal to the legislature that the bill was not needed, get it dropped, and then change the policies back. This is why this bill is so important. The protection of free expression would no longer be dependent on the changing opinions of what is acceptable speech at any given university. After 3 years of harassment and feeling emotionally and mentally defeated, I decided that Georgia Gwinnett College was no longer a place where I could be successful. I have since transferred to an out-of-state college where differing opinions have been welcomed and appreciated rather than used against individuals to harass, bully, or embarrass them. After attending a university where freedom of speech is protected, regardless of viewpoint, I can proudly say that I will be graduating summa cum laude this May. An institution that cares about their students is the foundation for success. I would urge each of you to consider the future, not only of the state, but of our country, if we continue to let our colleges and universities dictate where students can express themselves, what they can say, and most importantly, who it is acceptable for them to speak with. I do hope that my experience isn't replicated in the future, and I believe that this bill can be the catalyst that ensures no student has to endure administrative bias, either intentionally or unintentionally. Thank you for your time. Please vote for House Bill 995.
Thank you very much. Ryan Covan, 50-50. Ryan, you have the floor.
Good afternoon. My name is Ryan Covan. I'm a sophomore at Kennesaw State with the major in psychology. I'm the chapter president for a nonprofit freedom organization. I started it when I was a freshman. So free speech issues have been going on for decades now, I feel like. Negative actions against certain student organizations have been on the rise, especially with these free speech zones that have been put in place, which this bill is, that's what it's specifically addressing here. Free speech zones have become more popular and have isolated these groups from the rest of the campus life, which will, of course, put these organizations, their expression, in certain percentages of the campus. Some, I believe there's been a couple studies, and some free speech areas are less than 1% of the campus. I want to specifically talk about 2 lawsuits that have actually happened at KSU. In 2018, there were 2 major lawsuits against our policies. One student group had their display moved from a high-traffic walking area to an incredibly small free speech area, which of course had 0 traffic. That was incredibly controversial because that was huge, that these organizations, these students are like myself, are hardworking, and we understand the value of freedom, and the schools will have done things like this. The case was brought up and the student organization won, resulting in $20,000 and $20,100. Then another organization was discriminated because of an event they hosted. They had unnecessary fees against them, like security fees. And then they were also ranked under a caste system. KSU actually had a caste system in 2018 where if you were based on your ideologies, you were ranked at certain levels. They were ranked at the bottom, and they received 0 student activity funding fees. Because of that, they filed a lawsuit and won as well. They won $17,100. These 2 lawsuits, of course, resulted in major policy changes, and KSU has been consistently trying to protect our freedom of speech, and I'm very blessed to say that. It's now 2020, we don't have any free speech areas, and I would love for it to stay that way. And this bill would, of course, contain that and keep the preservation of freedom of speech on our campuses. That's why I'm here today, to show my full support for HB 995. So thank you all very much.
Ryan, thank you. And just if I want to, if I can be clear,
Yes, sir.
you said you didn't want any free speech areas, but for those that are listening here, what you wish to have then is the campus to be a free speech area.
Yes, sir.
I knew that's what you meant. I know that's what
Absolutely.
we're all talking about. But if somebody gets the sound bite from you on the internet, I wanted to give you the opportunity to that. Will you take a question? Again, any speaker doesn't feel obligated to do so. It's your choice. Representative Gardner.
Thank you. I didn't understand the name of your organization.
So my specific organization is Turning Point USA. So we're here to create a good conversation.
It is the what?
Turning Point USA.
Got it. The other question is, you mentioned about the student fees and how the ranking occurs.
Yes, ma'am.
Who does that ranking?
So the school did, the administration did, but that policy was
Not student
changed.
involved. No
It was not the students that did
No
that.
students involved.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Browning Sandusky. How did I do, Browning?
That was it. You got it.
All right.
Okay, so thank you all for having me here. I'm with Young Americans for Liberty. I was recently hired by them. They are a similar student organization to Turning Point USA, focusing, they're a 501c4 organization instead of a 501c3. So at University of North Georgia, there are signs that say, or designate a free speech zone. They're off on a secluded part of campus. Same with the University of West Georgia. At UGA, there are tabling fees, and activity fees are within the free speech zone, so you have to actually pay a fee in order to use the free speech zone, which is in right in front of the Tate Center, which is in the student center. So, and I have friends who so one of the things that we do with our organization is we do free speech balls, which is a giant beach ball that we roll around campus promoting free speech, and we get people to write whatever they want on it in support of the freedom of speech. And we do this sometimes on campuses that we believe have bad free speech policies in order to help correct those policies. And I've been kicked off a couple different campuses because of this. One was the University of Valdosta State University. We were tabling or using the free speech ball outside of their student center, and we were asked to leave. This was not in a free speech zone, but again, we believe that free speech zone should be on the entire campus. And we were asked to move because it was blocking the flow of traffic. We were right next to a 30-foot wide sidewalk, and we weren't even on the sidewalk. So another one is at Georgia Tech. I was invited on campus by some students to recruit, and the organization itself was being denied membership or official recognition by, they had been working on it. We don't know if they were being denied, but they have been trying to register as an official student organization for over a year, and they were never. This was a Turning Point USA group, and they were never registered. So we went out there to try and get support for the group, and we were asked to leave. I was threatened with arrest, and we were outside of the free speech zone, and I had an American flag in my backpack, and all we were doing was talking to students. We weren't making any loud noises or disrupting anything other than having signs and just promoting the freedom of speech. So with that, I have personally experienced censorship on campus, and in the form of tabling fees, being asked to be removed from campus, being threatened with arrest, and not ever being arrested. And so yeah, that's pretty much what I have. So thank y'all for the. I ask that y'all would support the Forum Act, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you. I also ask you, Browning, you have a question here if you wish to stand for it. Dr. Clark.
Just to be clear, when you were on the different campuses, you were there as a non-student.
I was not a student, but I was invited by students, and they were with me the entire time.
Okay, but you yourself were not a student.
I was not a student.
All right, thank you.
Moving on, Mike Griffin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, the committee, allowing me this opportunity to share with you today. My name is Mike Griffin. I am the Public Affairs Representative with the Georgia Baptist Mission Board. And Georgia Baptist Mission Board supports the passage of HB 995. Georgia Baptists represent approximately 1.3 million Georgians and almost 3,600 churches. We're also represented on over 45 college campuses throughout the state through our Baptist Collegiate Ministry. Our campus ministers are there to provide ministry opportunities to meet the needs of students, for students to fellowship with one another, and to help them grow spiritually while getting an education. Now, in response to this legislation, we believe that since a student's First Amendment rights are not dropped at the door when they enter our government schools of higher learning, therefore we think that it's good to have policies in place that add that extra assurance that all students will enjoy the highest free speech protection allowed under the U.S. Constitution. We have nothing to fear from allowing our students the right to peaceably express themselves regarding what they believe and to hear opposing viewpoints. This is one of the beauties of living in a free society and under constitutions such as ours. Therefore, we support the Forum Act and ask you to vote favorably for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Tony West, Americans for Prosperity. Mr. West. Mr. West, did you wish to pass out your information? We'll get some help with you. Is Matthew here?
I do, thank you. I have a business card attached to it. And
Well, that's fine. Go ahead and give it to. I just meant that is like when you drop it off in the office, so we know. We just like to validate that. I don't mean
Yes, sir.
any pointed thing at your organization or anybody else, but just as a general rule, we want to make sure we know from whence it came, because anybody could drop something and put your logo on it.
I see.
We need to tie it back to an individual. Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of this committee. Thank you for holding this hearing and for the opportunity for all of us to provide this testimony. As the chairman said, my name is Tony West. I'm the Deputy State Director for Americans for Prosperity, Georgia. AFP is the state largest grassroots organization focused on long-term solutions to our country's biggest problems. And I think free speech is one of those, so we're urging you to support this bill. This bill will ensure that our Georgia state-supported institutions of higher education uphold the ability of their students to freely express themselves. This bill strengthens our universities and protects our taxpayers by ensuring that our schools adhere to the First Amendment. Our Constitution protects free speech for all citizens. Exercising those rights is necessary for maintaining a dynamic society open to new and challenging ideas. And our college campuses provide an opportunity for students to express their views, have their arguments challenged in a respectful manner, and understand the mutual benefit of constructive debate with those who they disagree with. And it's not just students on our campuses that are going to benefit from this robust debate. It's all of us, because today's college students are tomorrow's members of this committee, our judges, our teachers, and our community leaders. And by not just teaching them about our freedoms, but providing them an opportunity to exercise those freedoms, I think our universities are going to create future leaders of our state who are open to dialogue and debate. I'm an alumnus of both University of Georgia and Georgia State University. I want what's best for our public universities. I want our current and future students to have an even better college experience than I did. I think this bill will ensure that our already great public universities will be that much better. It will make Georgia a national leader in promoting free speech across our public universities. I'm asking you all to support this, and I haven't heard this mentioned, so as committee members are debating this and thinking about this issue, I wanted to turn your attention to a Georgia Attorney General's opinion from 1997. It was 97-32. It determined that a university, and I quote, may not refuse to recognize a religious club as a student organization based on their voting membership policy without violating that group's constitutional rights. And I'm still quoting, it is my opinion that not recognizing that club would violate those students' First Amendment rights of expressive association. And that was Attorney General at the time, Thurbert Baker, opinion 97-32. Thank you.
Thank you. You have a question, Mr. West, would you take it?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your presentation. And I want to thank everyone for speaking out so clearly for protecting free speech. I think this is in all our interest. And as Representative Perkle said, it's the First Amendment. So with no question that should be protected. And I applaud everybody who steps up to do that. However, I do have a question, and not just for you, but everybody who presented. So you all came out and you speak that you want to protect free speech. If you think this is such a valuable thing to protect, how come then that at the same time you think we need a bill that would then protect requirements for leaders or members of such organizations to affirm or adhere to that organization's sincerely held beliefs? Doesn't that kind of like contradict what you're trying to accomplish? I'm struggling this with especially with, and it's especially in line, was it 107? And so
let's ask the gentleman a question. We'll debate it in a bit.
I'm sorry, would you just repeat that question?
So my question was that I applaud you for standing up for protecting free speech, which we all do, but then this bill also has a requirement or has a protection for that would allow organizations to require members and leaders to adhere to their beliefs, whatever that is. Doesn't that contradict all these efforts to protect free speech?
I think the Forum Act is trying to codify what the courts have already said the First Amendment entails, and I think that section is the implied freedom of association that we all have to associate with one another, with people who share our beliefs that want to further that mission. So whether it's religious, political, or ideological. So I think, I don't think there's anything morally wrong with the College Democrats wanting to make sure that voting members want to adhere to the Democratic Party's platform. And if someone comes in and is spouting Republican talking points, for instance, that you can attend our meetings, but we're not going to let you vote on our policies, kind of a thing. Same thing with an environmental group. That would be an ideological group that would be protected. If they have a mission to protect the environment and they have a policy platform that espouses the Green New Deal, they should have the associative rights to say, if you're a voting member, that's going to determine the future of this group. And if our group's purpose for even existing is to advance the Green New Deal, I think it's okay, and constitutional is the most important part, but it's probably okay to allow them to restrict that based on the voting membership. But under no circumstance would you be able to exclude people from public meetings. That's open to all.
Okay, thank you very much. Moving on now, Ms. Bowen, you are next here from the university.
I will sit if I don't mind.
You may. Yes, ma'am. Well, let me ask you, would it bother you? We have 3 other speakers to hear, and you may have some questions. Would it upset you if I put you further down the list and went to these 3 others? Let's do that, because you may in fact garner additional questions. With that, we're gonna call her back later. Tyler Cowart. Tyler, Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Tyler Coward, and I am the Legislative Counsel at the Foundation for Individual Rights in Education, or FIRE. FIRE is a national nonpartisan nonprofit organization dedicated to protecting the free speech and due process rights of students and faculty members at colleges and universities across the country. We've been doing it for about 20 years. We were founded in 1999, and any sort of political dispute you can think of, we've represented students on either side of any controversial issue there's ever been. And we're very proud of that track record. And I wanted to explain to you why we are here to support HB 995. Among FIRE's advocacy includes taking cases from students when they are censored on college campuses. And in 2007, we had a lawsuit against Valdosta State University, which took about 7 years to resolve through the court system. And the resulting settlement of that case, a First Amendment case, resulted in the University System of Georgia settling for $900,000, so a substantial hit to the taxpayers of the state for First Amendment violations occurring on campus there. And one of the reasons why we support HB 995, and I don't really have a written testimony, what I'd really prefer to do is to maybe answer some questions that I've heard posed by members of the committee. It does sort of codify the Supreme Court standard for time, place, and manner restrictions when and where a university may restrict speech in the open outdoor areas of campus. And Representative, you had a question earlier about whether or not the university may be able to restrict speech outside of an exam room during exam time. And of course, under the test laid out in this bill, a university would be well within its rights to restrict demonstrations or amplified sound outside of those classrooms during those exam times. Similarly, if a university has a hospital on campus, it may also want to restrict noise in those areas. That's part of their time, place, and manner authority. But what isn't a reasonable time, place, and manner restriction is when a university quarantines student speech to certain areas of campus. While it might be in the university's interest to restrict amplified sound, it certainly isn't within its interest to restrict distributing literature, which doesn't really make any noise at all. And one of the reasons why we've asked legislatures to intervene in campus free speech issues is, one, we have very good case law under federal courts sort of outlining what universities can and cannot do when it comes to restrictions on speech. However, if a university student is expelled for speech, courts have a very good idea of what the damages are there. They understand that if somebody is expelled for protected speech, that there are natural damages that result from that. However, if a student is merely censored, if they are told you may not distribute literature here, that is sort of a prior restraint. Most of the time when university students sue for that sort of violation, they are typically suing for injunctive relief. And when a student sues for that remedy and that he or she graduates from the institution, that policy no longer applies to the student. And because the policy no longer applies to the student, there's no longer an ongoing case or controversy, and the case will get mooted out of court. So one of the questions I heard from the panel earlier today was, if we already have good First Amendment law in federal courts, why are we creating a state cause of action? Well, that's exactly why. What the FORM Act does, it says if the court finds a violation of this act, it must award a certain amount of statutory damages, meaning that the court must retain jurisdiction over the claim until it gets to a written opinion. That way, universities are no longer waiting out students. Some universities have learned that they can just wait out students who are seniors and just say, okay, well we're going to play the delay game and this will just get resolved once they graduate. Well, this will actually force them to defend their policies in court or not, maybe perhaps settle before it gets that far. So those are a couple of things I wanted to mention to you all. There's the bill also helpfully defines the appropriate standard of student harassment, and that comes from a case called Davis versus Monroe County Board of Education. Universities do have the legal and moral duty to protect students from from discriminatory harassment. However, many universities across the country maintain overly broad harassment policies, meaning that they restrict more speech than is actually permissible. And as I mentioned, the Supreme Court ruled in a case called Davis versus Monroe County Board of Education, and the definition in the bill tracks that Supreme Court case, which is binding because it's the only time that the Supreme Court has ruled on the issue. And I guess that's really all I wanted to talk to you about, just based on questions I've heard. I'll just reiterate the fire is here to support the bill, and if you have any questions, I'm happy to take it at this time.
Thank you very much. You were right on time.
Oh, perfect.
Thank you. Jeff Graham, Georgia Equality. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Jeff Graham. I'm here with Georgia Equality. Our mission is to advance fairness, safety, and opportunity for lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender communities throughout the entire state of Georgia. I would like to express my concerns about House Bill 995 and echo the concerns explicitly expressed by my colleagues at the ACLU of Georgia. Although I believe this bill is well-intentioned to promote free speech on college and university campuses, as written, the bill would instead create a license to discriminate on the basis of religion. I urge you to either vote against the bill or to at least amend the legislation to remove its discriminatory elements. The majority of public colleges and universities in Georgia have rules in place that require student organizations to comply with the institution's non-discrimination policy. These policies are important because they create an open atmosphere on campuses and foster freedom of speech by prohibiting discrimination and allowing every student to participate fully in student organizations. On the other hand, if student organizations are allowed to discriminate, it limits the ability of disfavored students, whether due to their religion, sex, sexual orientation, or race, from fully participating in campus life. Unfortunately, this bill would undermine these critical student non-discrimination protections for public colleges and universities in Georgia, specifically sections 20, 1, 33E, which I believe are lines 102 through 110 that we've been discussing. I don't have the substitute in front of me.
Let me just interrupt briefly, because second person today, the bill we're working off of as a substitute is almost exactly the bill that the Senate passed last week. So when I referred to it as the substitute earlier, I should have been more clear. This is taking into account the discussions that have been had with I think only a few lines. That actually may have been a mistake. They may have been wanting to come out. So
Great.
Please continue.
Thank you for that clarification. So those are the lines that I have concerns about. They have, I believe that this is an attempt to circumvent CLS versus Martinez, the U.S. Supreme Court decision from 2010 that has already been discussed. This language is particularly problematic for LGBTQ students, which were in fact the focus of the Martinez case. Further, the right to free exercise of religion does not equal a right to discriminate. In Martinez, the Supreme Court ruled against a Christian student group at a public university that argued it had religious reasons for wanting to bar openly gay students from leadership positions and that it should be exempt from the school-wide non-discrimination policy. Further complicating this section is that the University System of Georgia's non-discrimination policy is actually fairly limited in the protections that it provides. As it states, quote, the Board of Regents prohibits unlawful discrimination, harassment, and retaliation within the University System of Georgia and all USG institutions based on any characteristic protected by law. Because members of the LGBT community are currently not explicitly protected by state law or federal law, students could be unfairly targeted for discrimination because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity, even if they otherwise hold the same beliefs as the student group that they wish to join. To allow such discrimination by groups who are receiving monies and resources provided by other students and taxpayers is especially grievous. This is not about free speech. By creating a novel definition of expressive activities that includes discrimination in membership and leadership, the bill masks the fact that it is simply authorizing discrimination against other students. Colleges and universities know their students and their individual cultures better than lawmakers. The state should not apply a one-size-fits-all policy on institutions of higher learning. Instead, colleges and universities and the students that attend them should be free to set appropriate non-discrimination rules for their campuses. Moreover, this provision would make Georgia public institutions of higher education less competitive compared to those of other states and private institutions, as students are much less likely to attend institutions where they could face discrimination, harassment, or exclusion. Again, we urge you to oppose the unnecessary and controversial measure by removing the controversial language. Public colleges and universities should be welcoming places for all of Georgia's students, not ones where student groups are given free rein to discriminate against their fellow students.
Thank you. You have no questions, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Chad Clements.
Thank you, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen of this committee, for the opportunity to speak here. My name is Chad Clements. I'm a senior at the University of North Georgia. I thought it was befitting for me to speak here today because if you were to find a poster student for an active student on a college campus, you'd either find me or a guy like me. Very active in my fraternity. I'm the president of the Young Americans for Liberty Club on our campus, and I previously served as treasurer of our speech and debate team. First and foremost, I'm a firm believer in political discourse. Open and honest conversation brings us together and does not drive us further apart. Now, how can I understand my neighbor, and how will they ever empathize with me if we are not allowed to engage with one another? To ask the question is to answer it. Unfortunately, universities seem to think the best solution is to ensure no interaction takes place between opposing viewpoints at all. Every component of this bill is integral to ensuring the rights of students to explore ideas and policies that will educate us in ways that classrooms never could. In my experience, I've been told that I need to set up in a free speech zone. I've been told that I have to apply days in advance before I can speak. That's not free speech. In fact, the hoops required to express my beliefs have a chilling effect on free speech. That isn't what is guaranteed in our Constitution. That very idea runs counter to a free people, to a student body that is growing and learning as we make our way in society. I want to read a quote from you by John Adams. The jaws of power are always open to devour, and our arms is always stretched out if possible, to destroy the freedom of thinking, speaking, and writing. Now, no matter your party, no matter your faith, no matter your background, we need more speech and no less. For that reason, I ask you all to vote yes on this bill. Thank you.
Mr. Clements, you too have done an excellent job. You have no questions. Thank you very much. At this point, I believe Ms. Otero, you had a point of clarification you wanted to make. I'm going to give you just a minute to do that because we have the university system that was kind enough to let us pass them by, and we're going to come back to them.
Sure, thank you. Would you like to ask me the question again, or do you want me to just clarify? Yes? Okay. I wanted to clarify my mentioning of Governor Scott's party. So the issue here that we are always tracking is not a partisan issue, right? And Governor Scott, who is a staunch conservative, needed to call a state of emergency in order to use resources from the state of Florida to be able to protect the students. For a speaker who calls himself a conservative, in our view, that is not what conservatism is, but it cost the state of Florida quite a lot of money. I did not mean to invoke his party to say anything about conservatism other than to say that it doesn't matter, right, who it is that is coming to speak. If it's one of these folks, these are the guys and these are the movements that care about laws like this because they want to exploit them.
Yes, ma'am. And thank you for the clarification. I didn't, as a chair, I didn't think you were referring to that the governor had anything to do with it, or that was directly. But your point of clarification is a good one, and thank you very much.
Absolutely, thank you.
We're going to move right on in, and if Ms. Bowen, if you would come up, University, and you wanted to take a seat, so you must think you're going to be here a minute. So, we'll turn on the table mic. Keeping in mind that we are at 4:44. I know the university has university system has several things that they want to discuss, so you have the floor.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman, and I will try to keep it brief. Thank you also, members of the committee, for the opportunity to speak with you today. My name is Brooke Bowen, and I am Senior Legal Counsel for the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia. Let me start by saying that we all agree in this room that our First Amendment rights are of the utmost importance, and we at the University System of Georgia are committed to protecting those rights. I started at the University System office back in late 2016, and shortly after I started, we launched a system-wide review of our free expression policies in conjunction with the Attorney General's office. We implemented a board policy on free expression, which stands to this date, which provides that our institutions must promote open ideas and academic freedom on our campuses, and that our institutions cannot discriminate against individuals based on the content or viewpoint of their expression. Simply put, we must treat young Democrats the same as we treat college Republicans, the same as we treat the chess club or any other group. It's not for us as government actors to pick and choose ideas with which we do or don't agree, and we do not do that at the University System of Georgia. Mr. Barham referenced 8 lawsuits that he knows of in the state of Georgia. Well, I want to be clear in saying that any alleged violation of the First Amendment is never okay. I did just want to highlight that the lawsuit he referenced from UGA was from 2006 and from Savannah State was from 2007. Again, I say that not to say that it was okay if it happened then and when it happened then, but I did just want to clarify so it isn't misleading for members of this committee. Since I have started at the University System office, I'm aware of 3 free speech lawsuits with which we've had at the University System of Georgia. The first actually has been dismissed by the Northern District of Georgia and by the 11th Circuit. The second, the KSU case that the KSU student referenced earlier, as soon as we were made aware of that case, we realized we should have done better. This came to my desk. It's actually a call came on my cell phone. I was in Middle Georgia at a conference. I pulled over in a gas station and I looked at all the allegations. We immediately worked with the plaintiff's attorneys to clarify our policies to make sure that our students were protected. 2 years ago, this General Assembly passed Senate Bill 339, which is now codified in state law, which requires us to keep our board policy and our institution policies in place protecting free speech and to provide a report highlighting both times when we've gotten it right in free speech and times when we've gotten it wrong. I say that to say we did highlight the KSU case. We're not proud of it, but we are proud of the fact that we're working to make it right. So I do apologize for that student, but I am very happy to hear that he does believe that his free speech rights are protected now at the University of Georgia. I've also explicitly asked Mr. Barham and his colleagues that to the extent they are aware of some time where they think one of our institutions got it wrong, to please call me because we are all in this together to make it right. He hasn't taken me up on my offer yet. That request was made in the fall of 2018, but I do hope that he does so if one of our institutions does get it wrong because we're committed to getting it right. With that, I did just want to say that I do not think that the law in general is necessary, although we do agree with provisions of the law, and that is because there are protections in the First Amendment, there's protections in Georgia state law, and we do have our board policy and our institution policies in place, and we're consistently training. With 45,000 employees, we may from time to time get it wrong. I hope we never do. I hope I never have to be in front of y'all because we got it wrong, but if we do, we're committed to making it right as soon as we're aware of it. With that, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I want to walk through a few concerns that we have in the bill. Again, making it very clear that we are very much in support of free speech. The first concern we have with the legislation is the definition of material and substantial disruption as drafted. There was testimony earlier today that this definition came from the Davis case. I think that was actually just a misstatement of where the definition comes from, as the one definition of harassment comes from Davis. But as far as the definition of material and substantial disruption, we're unsure where the definition originated from, and we're concerned that in practice, this could actually make it harder for us to prohibit 2 things that we need to prohibit at our institutions. One, we allow expression. I do want to make clear we allow expression. But if something disrupts our institution activities, we have to be able to take action to prevent it. Now, that's not disruption based on the content of what's said or the viewpoint of what's said, but that's if there was a question earlier about discussions that occur during testing, items that come up during the classroom setting, to the extent that the actual tone, the actual expression itself, rather than the content of the expression is disruptive, then we do need to prohibit that. I have concerns with the way the definition of material and substantially disruption is listed, that it would prohibit our concerns. We also have to have the opportunity to control against the heckler's veto, and federal law provides us with that obligation. The Supreme Court has provides us with that route, and that's a route that our schools do take. What we would propose in this regard, and we have provided a sample definition for material and substantial disruption that tracks case law that's actually taken from the Supreme Court case. So we would ask that be considered, just so that our institutions are able to consistently comply with the First Amendment, but also to prohibit any expression that disrupts either the operations of our institution or the expression of others. The heckler's veto, again, not based on the content of the expression, but based on the expression itself. Moving on. We have concerns with the definition of harassment. As public institutions, we must comply with all federal definitions of harassment. And there's a definition of harassment that we're required to prohibit for harassment that is severe or pervasive. There is also a separate definition of harassment we must prohibit, which is severe and pervasive. While that and or an or may not mean anything except to those of us who are attorneys in the room on first glance, it is a very big deal, because if one comment is severe enough in the Title VII context, so one comment is egregious enough based on someone's protected category, we have to take action against that, or we can be liable for violating federal non-discrimination laws. Likewise, if it's pervasive enough, so if it's a lot of comments, but they aren't all severe in and of themselves, then we have to be able to take action against that as well to prohibit discrimination and harassment. What the Davis Court said is schools, you can be held liable if a student engages in severe, pervasive, and objective harassment as a student, but they didn't say that that's all that can do. Again, we have our Title VII definitions of severe or pervasive harassment, and what we have simply asked is, instead of defining harassment here that doesn't capture all the definitions, that in line 93 we just cite to unlawful harassment. That way we are able to prohibit all unlawful harassment as we currently do. We candidly aren't sure that the pushback on that. There was a comment about prohibiting free speech zones. I just wanted to make it clear for the members of the committee and for you, Mr. Chairman, that according to our board policy, according to our institution policies and Georgia state law that was codified back in 2018, we do not have any free speech zones for members of our campus community. Our students, our faculty, our staff, their invited guests are able to express themselves. There is a provision from the 11th Circuit about outside speakers, because we can prioritize the use of our campuses for our students, faculty, and staff. We actually, when this case was over with the Senate, we worked with the drafters of this legislation, and they agreed with us. And so there's no change that's needed to the legislation on that point, but I did just want to make it very clear so you all weren't concerned that we were restricting speech to one area of campus. The part I think I may get a lot of questions on is the RSO association piece at lines 102 to 110. While we absolutely support the expressive rights of our students to freely associate, we do have major concerns that the bill as currently drafted would allow our students to engage in discrimination and would prohibit us from taking actions to prevent that discrimination. To try and remedy this and get to others' concerns about a hostile takeover of a group, which we absolutely do not want, we propose two different variations of the language. We have a piece of the language where we say that our RSOs can require that their members, and we don't even limit it to leaders, but their members can agree not to undermine the purposes of the organization. So we feel that that gets to that association piece, and it doesn't concern, a lot of concern we've heard before is about what if, a college Republican comes into the Young Democrats and tries a hostile takeover or vice versa. So that's where we have the undermine piece. We do have, though, that we must be able to apply our consistently applied policies, which is exactly what the Martinez case said. The Martinez case said as long as you're not engaging in viewpoint discrimination. So as long as you're not selectively enforcing your policy, saying, okay, group, we agree with your mission, so you're going to get a pass on this. Another group, we don't agree with you, so we're going to hold you to it. As long as you're applying them consistently across the board, you can have those policies, including non-discrimination policies. And we would argue not only can you have it, but also we must have it so that we're able to comply with our rights under federal discrimination law. Another provision we have suggested to get to the special status that religion has in the free expression clause. If we've offered a carve out for religious leaders, leaders of religious student organizations may be held to comply with the organization's sincerely held beliefs. Again, we think by the language as it currently stands, there very much is the opportunity for an organization to develop on our campus that is a white supremacist organization, or an organization that may think that women are a lesser category, deny women any entry to the group, and in so denying them, we would not have any opportunity as institutions to then consistently enforce our non-discrimination policies. Finally, there is a private cause of action and a waiver of sovereign immunity. I would argue that these remedies are available in federal law and that we're committed to getting them right. We are absolutely, as demonstrated by our efforts in the KSU matter, we are working to get it right every day, and we will continue to do so, but there are current remedies in federal law so that additional causes of action against the state are not necessary. I thank you. I know it's been a very long day, and I welcome all of your questions, but thank you so much for hearing our concerns on this bill, and please do know we're committed to supporting the free speech rights of our students.
I don't know about the rest of the members, but I think she could probably commit with Clerk Riley and do the first readers in the morning for us as quickly as she went through that. I have a couple questions here for you. Number 29 down there, is that Chairman Smiley? Yes, sir.
I was trying to follow you.
I'm sorry, I talk very fast.
Yeah, I was trying to say go faster. The part that you dealt with, and as it relates to, and I'm trying to digest this, it's sort of like this type of legislation doesn't meet that requirement of one size fits all. But tell me about Senate Bill 39. I remember we had Senate Bill 39 and dealt with the free speech issue. What was the real thrust of that?
Yes, sir. So with Senate Bill 339, that was proposed by Senator Ligon as well back in 2018. And what happened, actually the year before, Representative Buzz Brockway had introduced free speech legislation. We walked through with him the efforts we were making on our board policies, our institution policies, and he was happy where we were. What Senator Ligon said in 2018, if I may state what he said then, was he was concerned that what if the board policy was later changed. So what we did in working with the General Assembly then is we codified what we believe to be federal law, or what is federal law, and to ensure that our policies can't change. So that's what and in addition, you get an added benefit that you get a report written by us every year where we do highlight if we got it right or we got it wrong. So if you have concerns, we can't hide behind those, but yes.
And my second question, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I remember when we were doing that, and of course, that line of delineation between the Board of Regents, which is a constitutionally constituted body, and I'm very careful. I try to be careful when it comes to public policy, and a constituted board that has the authority constitutionally to oversee the responsibility and policies of the universities in our system. And 35 kind of troubles me a little bit too, because when you say materially and substantially disrupts, that's a strong definition for me as it relates to how do you from a policy, how do you prohibit that? How do you implement something? I agree with you that it's harder. It seems like it'd be harder to prohibit it, based on what I'm reading here. So How do you address that?
I have been struggling with this one since we got the legislation as it is currently drafted. I will say currently we have a great example of where an institution has gotten it right in terms of controlling the heckler's veto, and that is without this definition. So back a couple years ago, there was a student group at the University of Georgia, a student group that was in favor of Israel, and it had a number of Israeli soldiers there to speak and to present to their student organization. They had reserved a room under their authorities as a student organization, and we had a UGA public safety officer present, not to shut down the speech, but just of any concern to keep everything safe, because that is our priority with our students and those on our campus. What happened at this RSO meeting, and a registered student organization meeting, is that there were another group of students who started engaging in this shouting down. And so they started to shout down the speaker. The student leaders from the Israeli group who had reserved the room said, "We're happy to engage in civil discourse. We're happy to engage in civil dialogue, but we can't continue to be shouted down." The group that was shouting down continued to shout down and actually was escorted out by our public safety officer, which therein prohibited the heckler's veto. I will say under this, and our institutions know how to do that. Under this definition, though, I have major concerns that would subject our institutions for liability, possibly for not shutting it down soon enough, even though you can see on YouTube the video is present and it was shut down in a number of not even minutes. But also I have concerns that an organization could argue, the group that was shooting down could argue that was protected by the First Amendment, and so their First Amendment rights were violated by being shut down. So all that to say, I think our institutions do an incredibly great job of getting it right now, and this confuses it more than it helps.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to clarify one of the last things that you said when you were addressing lines 102 through 110, where you said that the USG would be open to saying that leaders must adhere to the sincerely held beliefs. Aren't the leaders of RSOs determined by the membership of RSOs anyway? So is that an issue that would arise anyway? Because wouldn't the members of that RSO choose their leader? And if the person who wants to be a leader does not hold their sincerely held beliefs, then wouldn't they isn't this a problem that could just be handled by the students in the group themselves and not necessarily?
To be clear, I don't know that the provision is needed in its entirety, but we have been working to try to get to a compromise where we can have codified in Georgia law what we believe our First Amendment rights or obligations to be, those that we're currently doing, and where we can work to prohibit discrimination law. As in terms of the leaders, what we have said is for leaders of religious organizations can be held to abide by the group's sincerely held beliefs. And we do that for a couple of reasons, the most important of which is that under the First Amendment, of course, in addition to protecting free speech, there also is a protection of free religion. So in order not to be seen as violating any group's free exercise of religion rights, we do think that religion holds this special status in First Amendment jurisprudence. By limiting leaders of religious organizations limiting that clause to leaders of religious organizations, we believe that a lot of the concerns that have been noted by this committee about discrimination, about treating individuals from other protected categories differently because of their membership in other protected categories would be carved out of them. Does that help? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I guess I wanted to hear exactly what you were saying at the end there. If 102 through 110 stands as is, I guess the concerns would be you're in the position of determining if a belief is sincerely held. Secondly, what that could do to federal funding. And then third, I guess, what compromise you were alluding to there.
Absolutely. And so we had the concerns we have, which I think are a lot of the concerns that the committee members had, was right now that as the legislation is currently drafted, none of our institutions could deny any organization a benefit or privilege based on any requirement that the leaders or members, I do want to highlight that's members, not just voting members, has been said, but affirm and adhere to the organization's sincerely held beliefs and comply with the organization's standards of conduct. I think you mentioned that earlier, and that is my concern as well, that if we have our RSOs where their organization's standard of conduct or their sincerely held beliefs is to discriminate against or to exclude members of a protected class. I'm going to put religion to the side for now because of that special status, but that could very well subject us to liability for excluding members in that protected class of a benefit that's available from our institution. So what we tried to do, again, we don't think that the legislation is needed at this point. We do agree that we should not be able to treat groups differently based on their expression. But what we have tried to do is to get to that point, but to do so in a way where we're able to meet all of our obligations. So one option that we have proposed is that we took out religious, political, ideological, and said that no public institution of higher education can deny a student organization, any student organization, a benefit based on a requirement from that student organization that the members not undermine their beliefs. That's a lot of the concerns we had heard was about that hostile takeover. What if groups come in and just completely flip the mission of this whole organization, the purpose it exists? Because undermining an organization is in a protected category, we thought we can include this in there and then also provide that our institutions can still enforce their codes of conduct, their discrimination policy, any consistently applied policy they can still enforce. That was one proposed solution. Another proposed solution, to the extent the committee was intent on keeping this language as currently drafted in 102 to 110, we would ask that you limit it to leaders of religious organizations. Again, keeping in mind that special status that religion has in the law. And so to ensure that would take away our concerns about discrimination on other protected against other protected categories, because identifying that though religion is a protected category and will continue to be, our students still have free exercise rights. Does that answer both pieces?
Hey, one more question, then we're going to have to move on. We'll clearly revisit this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you so much for your testimony and all the clarification. Along with this bill potentially subjecting USG to additional litigation and liability in the event the USG is not able to take action against harassment, are there any sources of federal funding that's potentially threatened by any of the provisions in the bill as currently drafted?
Yes, absolutely. To be able to be recipients of federal funding, which not only means grants, but also can mean federal student loans, which all of our institutions receive federal funding. We have to comply with federal non-discrimination harassment laws, which prohibit discrimination based on race, based on gender, and other categories already mentioned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let me, that does it for our questions. I'm going to bring back Representative Bonner to do that, but to be clear, and I don't think if he is, it's news to me. I don't think Representative Bonner is suggesting that anybody allows any non-lawful discrimination in the bill. If the bill has language to do that, we'll work on that language. But I think one of the things I want to ask this in the form of a statement, and because I don't know how to ask it otherwise, is if an organization believes, I don't know, I'm a University of Georgia guy, so I'm trying to come up with an analogy that's generic without, painting a particular group. But, if a university organization, student group believes fully firmly that the university's colors should stay red and black, and they're founded based on that, and they wish to have their members believe in that, I don't believe they should be required to allow someone to come in that changes them to gold and black. our friends on North Avenue here. Sorry for this. I don't believe that should be the case. So when I want to ask you this and get back with me, I do believe they should be selective in their membership based on their mission. I do not, in fact, believe we should codify in this bill that they can't have a member that believes, basketball is a better sport than football. I'm trying to do this all without regard to any real world thing. But do you understand what I'm asking you? Is it possible to allow an organization to be discerning based on their mission without another thing, male versus female? In other words, they should have to take members into that organization that are male or female, as long as they believe that the mission is to keep the colors red and black. They shouldn't be able to discriminate on that. So help me work on, just from my standpoint, work on language that helps folks protect the mission, because whatever the group is, their mission should be protected without discriminating on individuals about something that has nothing to do with the mission.
Yes, sir.
And do that. So with that, I see no further questions. I'm sure we'll get to speak with you guys again, and stay in touch with us. Representative Bonner, thank you for your time. I'm gonna give you the last word if it's quick, because as you know, we're gonna do this some more. Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, just with all due respect to Representative Bonner, I do not think that was his intention in draft, and I want to make that clear. I'm just worried about some unintended consequences of the bill, and I think we can all work together to make sure all of our needs are met.
Fair enough, and all of that is good. We've had. I want to thank all the speakers as Representative Bonner said. Now, everybody for staying focused on the point, and the point is to work on the bill. All the members of the committee, without talking at each other, we were talking at the options. Representative Bonner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I'll be brief. I appreciate the time. I appreciate the questions, the feedback. Even more so, I appreciate the great example that we're trying to establish with this legislation, and that's free speech, the protection thereof. So I hope that we can all get to that point. The intent, as we stated initially, is to make sure that we protect the constitutional rights of all of our students, regardless of what their ideology is, regardless of what their religious views are. And I think that that we can make the case for that. And so I appreciate the feedback, and I look forward to further discussion, Mr. Chairman. At whatever point we can move this bill on would be greatly appreciated.
Yes, sir. And I will get with you, and we'll talk about that. We will meet again Wednesday. So we may be able to, if we have some movement towards some language, some things that we're looking for, we may bring it back then. If not, we'll bring it back shortly thereafter. We're getting to the point in session where we're not going to be bound to stick by our scheduled meeting on Wednesday in order to give measures opportunity for full and fair discussion and still make our crossover day requirement. So with that, I again remind the committee of our event tomorrow evening, if you can join us, and ask, is there anything further the committee would like to speak of? Nothing further, Mr. Perkle? Nothing to join us with. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, Chairman Perkle. If no further business before the committee this evening, thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. No further business before the committee. We'll stand adjourned without objection. Without objection, we're adjourned.